It's Monday night, it's the 27th of November, and I'm going to look at crypto tonight. It's been a kind of pretty good 4-day holiday for Bitcoin, and leading into the holiday weekend, we saw a really nice squeeze in pretty much across the board in crypto on Friday, particularly in the Bitcoin futures market. We saw, I'm going to put regular candles on here, we saw really interesting new highs on a weekly close basis as well. But this chart for me has become very choppy and overlapping and kind of late stages of a rally. If I look at it on a 4-hour, we're kind of in this 4-hour rising channel. Now in a trending market, you know, very often when you're in the middle of the strongest part of the trend, when you see pullbacks, you don't tend to come into the previous swing, but kind of wave 5 ending diagonals or triangles, or even if it's just a correction and not actually a new upswing, you know, the waves kind of overlap each other and bleed into each other. And that's what we're seeing here, which means potentially we're not actually in a new upswing, but potentially this was just a corrective leg higher. So we go 3 waves down, 3 waves up, and we've still got another 3 waves down before this correction is over. If I draw it here in the futures, and I'll switch to spot in a minute, but if I draw this as a channel like this, and if we were to come back to the bottom of the channel, we would come back to retest this 35,700 level in the futures, which is that 38.2 fib. And that 38.2 fib, if I zoom out all the way out, this is a retrace level from the high that we made in November 2021 to the low that we made in November 2022 down here. And I'm looking really for this to continue to test 40,000, and 42,000 would be the 50% retrace level. So it is a little bit choppy and difficult, you know, but we've done this before, and I think it's just for now very bullish consolidation. We don't seem to be reversing at all, and I'm looking to buy pullbacks and for this to continue higher. It is possible now that we're at the end of November that we kind of go sideways into the year end and we don't rally again until January. You know, we've seen that before. December is not always the most bullish of months for Bitcoin. If we look at what we did last year from the end of November here, we were just off the lows. We were going very sideways, and we went sideways for really 2 months, and then of course we had this lovely spectacular rally. And that's not a kind of weird thing for Bitcoin to do. December 2021 was pretty ugly in the start of this very nasty reversal, and we were in the thick of it. So yeah, that's not necessarily a very December pattern, but it's not a kind of weird thing to do either. If we take a look at ETH, sometimes ETH is quite good for technicals. So if we look at spot Bitcoin and see what price that big 38.2 would be on a back test in spot Bitcoin, that level is 35,900. And you can see we didn't actually close at a new high in spot Bitcoin. It's a little bit more muted, but that's, if we draw this as a kind of, also as a kind of loose rising channel like this, that 35,900 would be the first support level that I would be looking for to bounce from. And if we were to break down underneath that level, we are going to look for this horizontal support, the daily 50 moving average, and in the spot it's 34,000. In the futures, I think it's like 33,500. So this previous swing low, and that would be a kind of really cool place to buy. If we are doing a kind of wave forward, we can see here back in October, we did the very similar pattern, big three wave pullback to the 50 moving average and up we went. And the 50 moving average for me, it's a bit like the backstop. You know, if your short-term support of the 20 moving average doesn't hold, the 50 moving average is the backstop where you really kind of expect the support to hold and it to pull back to. And that's where I would look for it to come if we saw a bigger pullback. But really the ideal trend support for Bitcoin is still 35,900. The false breakout, the being unable to hold a new high here in the spot, means that we are likely to come back to the bottom of the range, and that's where I'm looking for. I have to say though, short term tonight, in terms of a 4-hour, for me this is setting up as a pretty nice 4-hour buy. And Bitcoin, you know, really does like to make double bottoms and double tops, and because we are in this rising channel, to be honest, we could just rally from here. So yeah, let's see if this high gives us a double top or a kind of lower high, then we have stopped going up. But I do think that we are setting up a pretty interesting rally from here, 4-hour, and on the hourly, you know, higher low sort of double bottom look. It does look like we are going to have a go at a rally from here. Let's take a look at ETH. And here's another story, of course, lovely big rally, beginning of the month, and then we've had a couple of weeks now of sideways dojis. These are indecision, it's pause, because we're in a nice uptrend. It's bullish consolidation here on the weekly. And you can see that in ETH, we've done this before here. We did this in January, February. We had a really strong rally, and then we went sideways for quite a few weeks. Had a false break higher, false break lower, and then the trend continued higher. And I kind of feel like that's what we're doing here. And for me, the key support level is 1866 in ETH. I think a pullback in ETH to 8 there would be a really good level. When I look at this again on the daily, it does look like we could very easily make a pretty nice 3-wave pullback towards 1866. And I really wouldn't be bearish unless we, you know, for a bigger pullback or back to the bottom of the range, unless we got underneath there. I'm still looking for 2,400 and 3,000 next on the upside in ETH. But as we get into year end, it just seems like went really strong, and now we're kind of just doing some back and fill sideways, going sideways. This is not kind of any kind of a bearish reversal signal for me. You know, we're holding this 20 moving average, and just like Bitcoin tonight, you know, potentially if we look at this on a lower time frame, like an hourly, it does look like we are trying a bit of a rally here, but it's so difficult, you know, with flat moving averages means very choppy overlapping trading, not much of a trend. And to be honest, I think we could see a pretty decent bounce here after a big pullback today, but I'm not feeling that bullish at the moment, I have to say. If I were to put my fibs on from this high, short term here for hourly trading, from this high to this low, and I'm going to find my 236 fib level, which is like my touchstone. That's the level that kind of confirms the trend reversals. And if we put this on, you can see we've gone past that 236 fib level, so we are going to see a bigger bounce, 2042, maybe 2059, and then if we pull back and make a higher low, I might be tempted in. But I think for tonight, you know, for me, this could just be until we see that kind of higher low. It could just be a bounce and a downtrend, and I'm not quite tempted in yet in ETH. So we could see this sideways you know, we could see this sideways consolidation continue, and we need to be a little bit careful. In some of the other bigger cap altcoins, there are some quite bearish patterns. For example, let's start here with, I'm going to take everything off. And we are looking at ADA. Now, for me, ever since the low we made in December 2022, these have just been very corrective patterns sideways here in ADA. So from the low that we made here in December, we made a 3-wave corrective rally higher, 50% of this drop. Then we did a 3-wave swing lower, and here we've gone another 1, 2, 3. Now, sometimes final legs of a correction can unfold as 5 waves, and so it's possible that we could pull back and find support from these moving averages and do another swing higher to these high, and we could, you know, be in one of those, yeah, just kind of sideways ranges. So this is the bottom of our range, this is the top of the range. Let's take this stuff off. But for me, I kind of look at fib patterns, right? So if I go down to the daily here at this this whole big correction that we've been doing, and I put my fib retrace levels on from this high to this low, the lowest low, highest high, lowest low, our first swing went all the way up to the 61.8 and then a very deep retrace. And this second swing went to the 786. This makes this a textbook Gartley pattern. And with a Gartley pattern, the best Gartley patterns have equal measured moves. So this ADA here is right here is in a bearish Gartley pattern, where these two rally swings are equal. It's at a 786 fib, and if we reverse here, we're likely to come all the way back to the 38.2, probably down here around somewhere around 0.28, back to the bottom, at least back to this daily 200 moving average. And our first support level, if that's not going to happen and we're going to do another swing higher, is a back test of this 61.8 at 0.33, and underneath that, I'm afraid, this kind of confirms this as this whole big three-wave correction over and potentially new lows for ADA. So if you're kind of hodling this, I wouldn't be hodling it if we close and continue lower underneath 0.33, and I would need to see a bigger kind of bottoming pattern. So again, with if we reverse here, then if you reverse to the 786 fib level, your first support target would be here, back to the moving averages at 0.31, and potentially we come back to 0.27 and even retest these lows, because really we would have gone 1, 2, 3, and the downtrend would continue. So this is not a bullish pattern at the moment. Now, if we were to not come all the way back there, hold these weekly moving averages, turn up higher, make new highs, that negates this potentially bearish pattern. But I just want to warn you that that's out there and potentially, so we kind of really, need to hold these lows, and otherwise we are looking at a bit of bigger move lower in ADA. Bearish Gartley. The other thing that surprised me this week has been, given everything that's going on with Binance, how initially Binance held up really well. But I have to say, when I look at this weekly chart, for me, BNB, and I think I said BNB and WorldCoin were my favorite shorts. If we look at Binance coins, so I've got my fib retrace levels from all-time lows to all-time highs, and this first pullback was to 61.8 and then a really big bounce almost back to the highs. So if we're going to make a big ABC Gartley pattern going the other way, then to the one we just looked at in ADA, then our support here in BNB is down at 149.5 at the 786 fib level. And having gotten underneath this 61.8 level here and gotten rejected, this is a monthly chart. If we look at this on a weekly, you can see all of the weekly moving averages, the 50 and the 200 that we've gotten rejected at. This points to 49.50 being the target, and that being our, and then we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it's possible that this fourth wave isn't finished. We can see how big this second wave is. And it's possible, if everything else kind of has a little bit of a rally, this might have another go at a rally. But unless it can get above and hold above 265, I think that's going to be a sell, and we're headed to 149.50. So watch out for that in Binance Coin. I'm definitely in the sell rally camp, and I think that's where we're headed back to, unless it can regain 265. So a couple of other charts have some pretty bearish patterns as well. Let's take a look at some of those. First off, let's take a look at Solana, which everyone has been really excited about. Now, if we go to the weekly chart in Solana, I have to say that I don't think, first of all, I don't think it's as bearish as some of the others. First of all, I think that this potentially, has just done a big wave 3 and we're in a wave 4 and we've got more upside. My upside target was 69 in Solana. We haven't quite reached it yet. I also really like how these weekly moving averages are turning bullish. But if we look at this lower time frame on the daily, potentially we could be I don't think this is a very good head and shoulders pattern, but if I look at the rally that we've made since last week here, it's also looking a little bit, yeah, not so bullish, is it? Need to be a little bit careful with this one. Now, if it's not a head and shoulders pattern, this was a three-wave pullback, we're going to see a three-wave B leg and then another swing like this. Clearly, for me, this has entered kind of a choppy sideways consolidation pattern. So if we were to get up, for me, if you're long of this one, I think we're in a wave 4, and watch out that we need to close and hold above 69 to confirm that we have bottomed in Solana, and potentially this is just if we can't get above that level, you know, 236 fibs, they're like the trend guide in Fibonacci terms. So for example, you know, and when you get above it, you know, you know you're going to have a bigger correction, so, or a bigger bounce, and potentially we can say that we've bottomed in terms of trends. So I kind of like how this is holding up, but it's also pretty overbought. On a weekly, on a daily, we are resetting, and so ideally, yeah, bigger correction pattern, but not a bearish reversal. So Solana looks okay, BNB does not. Doge, however, let's look at one that's more bearish, and the reason this one is more bearish, very similar to ADA that we looked at. If we measure from the low that we made in June to this high and project it from here, we've stopped at an equal measured move level, and also the top of this kind of descending channel that we were in Doge. When you reverse at an equal measured move level, remember, if you close and hold underneath the 61.8, it confirms that it's bearish and you're going back to the bottom of the channel. So we're not going to be bullish for more upside in Doge unless we can close and hold above 0.086. So we hit our first target, and back underneath this here, and potentially this is also, if we look at this, setting up potentially a bearish reversal pattern. We're not there yet, and unless we get back and test this neckline, I'm not going to kind of preempt it. For now, I think we've made a big pullback, and now we're going to look for a three-wave and then another swing lower before this correction is over in Doge. So let's see what happens. Everything looks like it wants to rally. Now we've got this pretty ugly Monday out of the way, and so our lower high, a big three-wave move higher here for me would be a sell for another leg lower in Doge as well. Okay, there's one more that I kind of am a little bit more bearish, and this is this WLD World Coin. So very similar to other coins that we have looked at. I think it's at the top of a bearish channel. Also a 786 fib retrace level here at this 2.8 level, and when you reverse at a 786 fib, if you close underneath the 61.8, your first target is back to the 38.2, which for me would be back to these swing lows, the swing high, bottom of the channel, daily 50 moving average. So all of the signs say that if we break underneath 2.4, we are headed to 1.8, and that's the short setup in WorldCoin. Now, when everybody's looking at that level, and now I've announced it, you kind of need to see us underneath that level and hold underneath that level, and potentially we could rally from here before we get there. Potentially we've done a three-wave correction, but for me, I don't think we've quite got far enough, have we? Yeah, we are. So I'm wrong in this case, because this is a three-wave pullback to the hourly 200 moving average. I'm wrong, and we're going to retest the highs first if we close back above this 61.8 level, which is a 2.58. And ideally, if you were looking to sell this, because we've had one bounce like this, a three-wave back to here and then a bearish reversal, that would be a really good sell scenario for next swing lower in WorldCoin. So first target, if you were to sell the bounce in this one. First target here would be 2.4, and then of course our big target down here at 1.86. Okay, a few more coins, all looking like they should just be pullbacks, like wave 4 consolidations. Quite a few that I like and have been watching. So let's take a look at some of them. First one of them is OP. So when I look at OP, this is another one where we have bounced from a 786 fib level. So for me, my first target should be up here at 2.18. However, potentially a lot of people are looking at this and going, oh, have we made a 3-wave correction? I don't think we have. I think that the equal measured move means we do move higher from here. And I think that the 61.8 and the back test of this 50 moving average potentially says that, you know, we're a bit like Bitcoin. We're consolidating before we make another swing higher. We could swing a little bit lower here. You can see we're in sideways consolidation. And I think, you know, 1.5 could be where we pull back to. That's where the daily 50 moving average is in a bigger 3-wave pattern. But I'm still looking for another swing higher here in OP. So not ready to go yet, but I'm not dumping it all yet on this pullback. I think algo is another one that we should see another swing higher. There's a number of reasons why I think this for algo. In terms of measured move, you can see this swing is much bigger than the first swing at 1.618, which means, and it's also like kind of looks like 5 waves. So I'm thinking this is a big wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we should see another swing higher. And I really like how these corrections are all choppy and overlapping in 3 waves, and you can see what I mean here on the 4 hour. And so yeah, I'm waiting for this to reset and turn higher again. So if we go back to the daily, now potentially we could lose this daily 20 moving average, and if we do, then we're going to come back to this 200-day moving average before we swing higher again in this correction. Or we could, you know, just turn higher from here and break out. I don't think it's quite ready, but it's getting ready. And if everything rallies, this is one where I think that we would have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll see another swing higher. So I'm still holding on in algo, and my target is going to be the weekly 50 moving average in this swing low up here next at 0.159. That's what I'm holding for. And then, of course, obviously above 0.159, happy days. You know, we should, let's zoom out here. We should, next would be these swing lows and this swing high all the way here at 0.3. So, you know, we're going step by step by step to reverse the trend here in algo. This really is a kind of double bottom with a rounded retest. So we're retesting the low that we made in 2020, which we bounced off with a spike in 2020. And here's our rounded retest. And so if we can get above this weekly 50 moving average, then our target, yes, should be up here at 0.29 for algo. So I'm holding on in this one, looking for another push higher. Now, what would get me out? Well, you don't want to do this with any leverage. I bought from this double bottom when we break above these highs. So I really wouldn't want, I'm going to lighten up. I really wouldn't want to see it close back underneath this daily 200 moving average. I think that would be kind of game over. So I'm going to lighten up and then buy some back on this retest for another swing higher in algo, but I'm not going to sell it all. I find if I keep some, if I try and keep a runner or some soldiers, you know, whenever you log into your trading account, it'll be the first one to pop up. So, you know, I don't miss a move if I kind of keep some soldiers out there in the field fighting for me. So Algorand, I'm still holding on to. And there's a few like that that I also think have another swing higher. For example, Atom is another one. I'm looking for a bottoming pattern. In this one here on the weekly, we have actually reached that kind of support and resistance level that we would have as our first target in Algorand. But here in Atom, for me, this is different because we made our first rally from the June 2022. This is a big pullback, and here's our next swing higher. So my target's 1335, but we're just paused at these weekly 50 moving average in this previous swing high. Now, if we've got this sideways kind of consolidation pattern going on, and we held the previous swing lows, and we've got this sideways range. Now, clearly, I don't want to lose if this goes. And in all of these, quite often when they make their corrections, it is quite often better to just get out of the way and wait for them to reset and buy again. But, potentially this three-wave correction was it. And we did pull back to this previous swing low. And potentially we started a new upswing, especially if we hold above this daily 20 moving average here. And look how the CCI is just turning up again. So potentially, Atom, and when I look at it here on a 4-hour time frame, we have pulled back to these moving averages. We made a nice ABC. This should just be a pullback. I'm waiting to see if this pushes higher from here. I'm not going to buy it tonight, but if we were to push above and then a higher low, I probably would jump back in again. We need to kind of flip these hourly moving averages. And then, so I'm watching Atom because I think it could keep going higher from here as well. Arbitrum is not a terrible setup either. In fact, I like this one better because it's kind of pulled back to my ideal support. So if we look at this on the weekly, you can see we rallied. We've pulled back to the weekly 20 moving average. We pulled back to this 236 fib level that previously was pretty good support and resistance. If we go left, so this is kind of a really nice pullback support level if we're going to keep going higher, aren't we? If we look at this on the daily, are we ready to turn up again? Possibly. And if we look at this on a 4-hour, potentially, this has got the kind of very nice look of a 4-hour inverted head and shoulders pattern. Now, we're nowhere near the neckline, but buying the bottom of a right shoulder and a pretty good support like this is not a terrible idea. So I have bought a little Arbitrum. I'm going to see what happens when we retest these highs at 1.08. And then, yeah, I'm looking for higher. Now, if we go back out to the daily, my target is going to be this 50% level at 1.27. Now, we might wobble here at 1.15. And we might not even, we might only not manage to get back above this 200 moving average. It may not work. But, yeah, it's... I like buying pullbacks, and this is a pretty nice one and a pretty interesting level. So I'm putting my toe in the water with this one. Bit sensor Tau is another one that we have been watching, and this is, I think, in a big wave 4. So here's our lovely rally, pulled back to the 236 fib very nicely in this one, and then took off. Let's hope Arbitrum does the same. Now, I measured these levels, right? So I put my fib from this high to low because these were the retrace levels, right? So we went all the way up to the 786, all the way back, up we went. And you can see the previous highs broke above them. 1.618 we blasted through, and the 2.618 is where we are having a little bit of a pullback. And I think that we have potentially just done a wait. Now, there's two ways to look at this. We've got 1, 2, 3. I don't think that's the case because this doesn't look like a wave 4. So I'm looking for a pullback here, and potentially whenever you see a double top, which is what we've got here in Tau, we've stopped going up, right? And if so when you get a double top, you're likely to retest the bottom of your sideways range. So that's where we're likely to come back to. Here, so the bottom of the range down here. Now, if we were to close underneath the bottom of this range, I think we are likely to go twice this distance, which would bring us back to this 1.618 level where we paused before. This was the last time we paused, and that's at 174. So if this sideways range breaks, watch out for a bigger pullback to at least 174, and maybe this swing lower a little bit lower around 160. So I think it is just a pullback bit because because it's gone so far so fast, yeah, it needs to stay in sideways consolidation or we will see a much bigger pullback. Now if I take my fibs off and we put them on the other way, so we measure this whole wave 3. Now the most common retrace of a wave 3 like this is 38.2, which would be or 50%, so that would be 208. Now that level we were looking at 170, we were looking at 151, that's 176. This is all the way down here, you know, and look how far we are from this weekly 20 moving average because we rallied so fast. So I'm hoping for a wave 4, but it could, you know, it could be a little bit funky. And if the bottom of this double top sideways range breaks, watch out for a much bigger pullback in Tau. Whenever you see a double top, it means you've stopped going up. Whenever you see a double bottom, it means you've stopped going down. And then you kind of see which way are we going to go next. Okay, good luck. It's been a really funky start to the week and it's all a little bit difficult at the moment. And month end, I'm not expecting, you know, spectacular fall in stocks. You know, the last few days into month end, you know, we tend to see some window dressing. I think stocks could hold up. I'm not expecting a big, you know, market crash or anything. And to be honest, crypto seems pretty decoupled from what is going on in legacy markets at the moment. So yeah, let's just stay out of the chop and trade carefully. Good luck.